everybody has a sad story. We all do. I lost my parents 2 years ago. Everybody has something. Someone knows someone who has cancer, unfortunately. There's a lot of sadness that we all deal with. Everybody has it. I want to see something uplifting. And I think that's the strength of the show, is watching people do like what you had said. It seems impossible, right? Doing this kind of stuff. And unless you've done it yourself, you just look at it and you go, oh my God, I don't know if I could ever do that. And I just love, I like seeing the impossible become possible.
All right, I'm here with a Gray Fox Ninja. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks for having me, Tioma. My real name's Tim Schnee, and I'm the Gray Fox Ninja on American Ninja Warrior. I'm 54 years old, have 5 beautiful kids that are all grown-ups, and 3 new grandbabies. And I live in the Seattle, Washington area, and I've been an American Ninja Warrior for 6 seasons on the show, including this year.
Awesome. And let's start with how you got your name. What does the Gray Fox Ninja mean?
Yeah, no problem. So actually, my original ninja name on the show, the first year I got on, which was season 8, the storyline producer that I was assigned said, what do you do for a living? Well, I supervise public metro bus drivers for a living. And so they said, we'll call you the Transit Ninja because you're in transit. And I was like, I don't like that name. And they said, too bad.
Oh, boy.
I mean, when American Ninja Warrior says this is what you're doing, if you want to get on the show, you kind of say yes, right?
Yeah.
So I went with that nickname for the first 5 seasons I was on the show. And then when I was contacted and cast for this, technically I shouldn't say this year, I was cast for season 16, which is actually going to air sometime next year. And we still taped in March. But anyway, when I was contacted for season 16, they said, you don't still want to be the Transit Ninja, do you? And I said, no, I've been telling you guys for 5 years, I don't like that name. So my very, very good buddy, Bobby Mix, is the Silver Fox on American Ninja Warrior. And we're real good friends. And producers kind of got together and came back with, how about we call you the Gray Fox Ninja to complement the Silver Fox? I'm like, cool. So that's kind of where that came from.
That's awesome. How did you get started on the show? So did you watch it on TV and decide to apply? Like, what gave you the courage that, this is something I want to do?
Yeah. So, I don't always pronounce this right. I think Sasuke, probably the best way to.
Yeah.
So when my kids were teenagers, my wife and all of us, we would watch Sasuke just every time it came on. Makoto Nagano, my favorite all-time American Ninja Warrior guy, is just awesome, right? And he's my age too, which is kind of cool. Anyway, we watched it, and then we transitioned to the American Ninja Warrior version. And this in season 6, they said, hey, if you think you've got what it takes, blah blah blah. So I put together the world's worst audition tape that I'm sorry, nobody, including God, will ever get to see. It was horrible. And I was wondering why they didn't pick me. And then I did some research. And so for season 8, I revamped and decided this is going to get me on the show. And it did. And as far as what made me think, I could do it or not, I've always been an athlete. I was a student of and a student teacher of Seito Shitaru Karate for almost a decade. I did all kinds of sports growing up. I was a gymnastics coach, et cetera, et cetera. So I've always been, pretty flexible and nimble. And I thought, let's give it a try. And, the rest is history.
Awesome. So when you saw it on TV, was it like, this is something I think I can do? Or was it like, well, maybe I can't do it, but I want to go for the experience?
That's a good question, Tioma. I think it's half and half. I knew that I'm good with my body, like flips and being upside down, walking on my hands, all that kind of stuff. And I thought, I think I could probably do pretty well at that. But we had no ninja gyms at that time. So this was 2016, no ninja gyms in the entire state of Washington. So I had to just figure out how to, work out on my own. And I went ahead and gave it a try. And, when I got on the show, my first time, season 8, Los Angeles, I got up did the floating steps, and I was freaked out. I won't lie. That because everybody at work said, whatever you do, don't fall in the water, right? It's like, well, thanks. That's really helpful. So I got through the floating steps, and I actually almost went in. And then I get to the TikTok, and I just flew right through that thing. And I went, okay, I can do this, And I actually ended up going out on the, what is it called? The ring jump. It was the first year that they had, it was the rings, and there was like a spine that went up one side and down the other, and you had to pop it over those little pegs.
Oh, the ring.
The ring toss. Thank you. So I was right after Jessie Graff, and that's when I met her too. We were warming up together. Real nice lady. And I was at the starting line waiting for them to tell me to go. And that was the day that she summited the warped wall for the first time and hit a buzzer. And that was just unreal. Absolutely cool. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, but yeah, I went out on that fourth obstacle, and I was hooked. I was like, okay, this is my drug. I need to do this again. So, I applied and got on the next couple of years in a row. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. How did you train before the gyms? Because gyms didn't come around until like a lot later.
Yeah, right. So I went to like local playgrounds when there was nobody there, and didn't want to get laughed at. But yeah, I went to local playgrounds, played around on the monkey bars, things like that. Nothing terribly, impressive, because there was nothing here in the Seattle area. It's really a parkour and bouldering stronghold. Mm-hmm. But we now have 4 ninja gyms throughout the state, which is great, but it's taken a long time to get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I started in the same way. When I was in 7th grade, actually, I did have a Ninja Warrior gym 30 minutes away, but no one would drive me there. It wasn't really even kind of a sport, like why would you do that? So I just always went to playgrounds and tried to come up with the most challenging thing I could do. And yeah, it was, you had to make the best of what you had.
Yeah, you're a true ninja. You're a true ninja. You didn't wait for it to come to you. You went to it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And you said first you were a gymnastics coach. You found out about this. How has it impacted your life? How much of your life is the sport now?
Oh, yeah. So, I found out about it through watching the show, like we were talking about. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because of gymnastics or teaching karate, but watching the show, and as far as how big is this in my life, it's it's everything. Yeah, I've become completely engrossed in the world of ninja. I compete in the Ultimate Ninja Athlete Association, or UNAA, as you know. Mm-hmm. I've been doing that since the same first year that I got on the show. So it's coming up not quite on 8 years. And I've competed in their world championships for 6 of those 8 or 7-ish years. And I've competed in WNL, but there's very few WNL gyms on this side of the country. So, but yeah, I just pick mostly UNAA, and yeah, it's a huge part of my life. Most of the clothes I wear when I'm not at work say American Ninja Warrior on them, or the Gray Fox Ninja. It's what I talk about all the time. It's never far from my mind. It's a huge part of my life, and I love it.
And what is your job right now?
So I actually have 2 jobs. I am a public transit bus supervisor. So some people would call it a metro supervisor. So I supervise public transit drivers out in the field here in the Seattle area, and that's my day job. And I just recently started as the program director and a coach at a brand new ninja gym here in Washington, in Issaquah, Washington, about 30 minutes east of Seattle. And it's called Ninja Quest Adventures. So anybody hearing this podcast that's in this greater Seattle area, yeah, we have a brand new ninja gym, and it's in Issaquah. And we've been open for about not quite 6 weeks. And it's awesome. So I'm very excited that it's more like, Tioma, it's more like, it's not really a job. It's just fun. I love doing it for fun.
That's awesome. From seeing it on TV to really making it your career. And what is it like to be part of a ninja gym that is so brand new?
It's really exciting, to be honest. We're almost everybody in our area where I live there's very few people that do ninja. It's a very, very new sport. We're starting to get folks that are coming through our doors, and they're like, "Oh, I've heard of that. I've heard of that show, or I watched it once or twice." But there's plenty of folks that haven't. They've just never, heard of it. And so it's fun and exciting to introduce folks to the sport. And that's something that we're really excited to do at Ninja Quest Adventures. And then for those that are actually, intermediate or advanced level, we also teach them as well. And we like to push them as far as we can.
Yeah, it's definitely really hard to get customers at the very beginning for such a niche and unusual sport. What are your methods? How do you try to get people interested?
Oh, well, that's a good question. Actually, I'm not in the marketing side, so I can answer it this way, Tioma. So when folks do get into the gym, like they're walking in and looking at, whoa, what is all this about? I try to get a baseline. Have you ever heard of American Ninja Warrior? If they haven't, then I try to frame it around, other types of sports. Have you heard of parkour, et cetera, and so forth. And gymnastics usually will click with just about everybody. And then, we take them out and we show them, this is what we do. We could take you from a brand new beginner. And, if you like to fly, if you want to learn how to fly, you're in the right place.
Mm. And is the gym like in the middle of the city where people can just walk by and walk in? Or is it like a warehouse in the middle of nowhere like a lot of gyms are?
Oh, you're right. That's the way most of them are, huh? This one actually is really close to downtown. It's actually in a 24-hour fitness building. So we're on the same floor as the 24-hour fitness, which tons and tons of folks come in, and we've had a lot of our customers actually come from 24-hour fitness. They're like, yeah, I want to do this. Yeah, it's pretty cool. So we get a lot of foot traffic, but yeah, so it's being a ninja coach. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And were you part of the process of the initial building of the gym? Coming up with ideas for the design of everything, and how did that look like?
Well, I wasn't involved at that time. I was brought in after the design of the gym had already been done, and like the truss work had been installed already. Warp walls were being built when they brought me on, and but I was able to have a big voice, I guess you could say, in a lot of the equipment that we ended up getting after I came on. So there's a lot of things that I said, hey, to the owners. I asked them, can we get this? Because this is really important. Kids need, students, that is, need this for balance, or we need to do that. And they pretty much always say yes to everything that I want. And it's really great. I love working there. They're very open-minded. Great guys, and they just, they want to spread the sport of ninja just like I do, and so it's really great to be a part of it.
Yeah, so you're a coach, you're a part of a gym, but you're also a competitor. So how do you train, and what is your, routine / advice?
Yeah, this is the downside of being a coach, Tioma. I have a lot less time to train.
Yeah, man.
I try to go in an hour or so ahead of when I'm scheduled to work. So because I can work out for free, outside of the gym hours. So I haven't gotten a lot of time to do that in the last month or so since we opened, but it's starting to ease up, I guess you could say. So, but yeah, I'll go in early, or I'll stay late after the last class, and then I'll work out on my own. And I just push myself. I always try to push myself to do stuff that I'm not comfortable with. And, that's what this sport is really in its essence, right, Tioma? There's always new obstacles. Like every time you go to a competition, right, there are new obstacles, or I should say new combinations. Even if it's your gym, you can put them in a combination for a competition that someone goes, oh, wow, that's actually a challenge. And so I'll do that. And the nice thing is, since I work at the gym, I can change things around if I want and do it however I want, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I like to push myself to do things that scare me and get more comfortable with them. And then once I'm comfortable, I'll push it a little farther.
Yeah, for sure. And, you've been doing this for quite a long time. You have a lot of experience. What's some advice and, like optimal ways to train? How much rest? What's the balance of it all? Should you do rock climbing on the side? Should you do lift weights on the side, calisthenics? What's your advice?
Yeah, I don't have good advice on weights. I've never been a weightlifter or trainer myself. I do advise, eating a good balanced diet. Of course, that certainly helps because what comes in, you want to make sure you have the right fuel. I'm not a nutritionist, so I'm not going to give advice on exactly what, but I think you get where I'm going with that. As far as rest, I don't get a lot of rest, so I can say that, if you do what works for you, I guess is how it works, right? Because everybody's different. Some people go on 4 hours, some people go on 6, that kind of thing. But just try to keep your either student ninja balance or your work-life balance, whatever it is in your life. Try to keep it as balanced as you can. You can't do ninja all the time. It'll ruin your body if you do it too much. It's something that you got to, you have to have rest periods. I wouldn't say do it every day, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I want to do it every day. Yeah, 3 days, 4 days a week, I think that's more than enough for anybody. You do have to have some downtime as well.
For sure. Yeah. And let's circle back to being on the show, because a lot of people on the podcast have never been on the show, and that's definitely quite a big experience. So tell me about some, big memories you made across the show, and in general, what your experience was like. What is it like to be on the big stage?
Oh, yeah. I have to tell you, it was not what I expected my first time, and I would be lying if I told you I was not nervous. Oh, God, my knees were knocking, bro. They were knocking big time, but I was excited too. I was really excited. I was there with 2 guys that also got cast, one of them for his second time, and they both live in the Seattle area, so we became fast friends when we found out, and worked out together for a couple weeks before we went there. And it was surreal. I didn't really think about the fact that when they, with a few exceptions, they always film at night. It's an overnight production, and a lot of folks don't know that. They don't pay attention, and it's like, oh, this is like graveyard shift. They don't start filming until after it's been dark for about a half hour or more. At that time, in the spring, it's like, 9:30 or so p.m., and then they start running it, and they got to get done before the sun comes up, and which is generally around 5:30ish or so in California about that time. So yeah, that's a little bit different. So you don't get a lot of sleep the night before because you're excited and nervous. And then the rest in the day of filming, you're busy all day long doing stuff. And then you go to the set, and it's a lot of hurry up and wait. And then they do the walkthrough where they show you each obstacle with, they have an employee that will test the obstacle and show you what it looks like. And, you can ask questions and stuff. And they take you through all of that. And then you just hurry up and wait until it's your turn. And it's something that, you're excited, you're nervous, you're like, when's my time? And then they call you, and, you get up on that stage. It's absolutely unreal. And when the producer says, "Ready, Greg Fox?" you go, "Yeah, I'm ready." And it's like 3, 2, 1. And then the camera's on you, and it's very silent. You could drop a pin and hear it. I'm not kidding. Everybody's quiet on the first obstacle, and then they start cheering once you get past it. And,
right.
Getting past that first obstacle, I think it's exhilarating. You get there and you're like, okay, I can try the second one. This is cool, And I will tell you, you asked about my experience. So I told you my first time on the show, season 8, I got to almost the middle of the 4th obstacle without ever being on a ninja course, right? So my second year, you wanted a memory. So my second year, I got to the second obstacle, the cannonball drop, and we had a mock version of it in the parking lot behind the stage that we could practice on. And so I was feeling confident, and I get on that, and it's sliding down, and I get to the very end, and instead of just letting go and falling on the platform, again, this is only my second year doing this, I held on for a split second too long, and I ended up swinging to the right just a little bit, and I ended up going off the course, and I fell down and hit the concrete from 8 feet up. I landed directly on my tailbone. Broke my tailbone. Yeah, I broke my tailbone. The left side of my body hit the cameraman that was he was kneeled down and getting a low-end shot of me, which, by the way, this was all in the first episode of season 9. Yeah, it was broadcast. I begged them actually not to show it. I was like, please, this is so embarrassing. But I ended up breaking 2 bones. I had to get surgery on my hand. tore some ligaments really bad, sprained my ankle, all in one shot.
Mm-hmm.
But the one good thing that came out of it was after I hobbled off the course. By the way, they didn't give me a towel because I didn't fall in the water. Yeah, but I got to meet Matt. So I met Matt Eisman. He came down, shook my hand, got a selfie and all that neat stuff. But yeah, so that's a memory I wish I didn't have. But yeah, they broadcast that on TV. So I ended up coming back the next year for season 10 and seasons 11. Season 11 in the Tacoma Dome was interesting. That was the last year that I had been on that we had a studio audience. When COVID happened, I didn't get picked for season 12. So I had that year off. And then for season 13, we came back to the Tacoma Dome. And I found out the day before we filmed that I was the first ninja for the entire season. And because of COVID, we didn't have a walk-on line. So there was no beta. I was the beta.
Oh, boy.
And I didn't do that well. Yeah. I went out on the second obstacle. What was it called? Wait for it, I think. Yeah. I don't know why. I got all the way to the second to the last one, and all I had to do was, grab it, and I missed. So, yeah, that was a little funny. But, and then this year, I made some really great memories. One of the cool things, Tim, about this show, amongst many others, is the camaraderie. And being on the show, you make a lot of really good friends for life. I've made tons of friends on this show, and I see them throughout the year when I compete in the UNAA also. And, it's just something that you can't buy. And it's just amazing. I feel privileged to have been picked not once, but 6 times. I don't know how that happened, but it's a very cool experience. If you get to do it even once, I say go for it. You'll never forget it.
Yeah. How has your experience over the years changed? Do you get more confident as this is my 6th time, not too nervous anymore, or is this still just as, scary?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I was nervous my first 3 times. 4, 5, and 6, not really. Especially this year when I filmed, season 16, I was actually excited and I couldn't wait to get up to the line. I kept going to my storyline producer. I'm like, is it my turn yet? Is it my turn yet? Come on, man. I want to get out there. I mean, most folks are nervous, which is understandable, but I was begging to get out there because I wanted to have a good time. And I did. I had the time of my life this year. It was an experience I'm never going to forget. Lots of smiles, the crowd engaged. It was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. Good time.
And how does it feel when you're up there running? Are you in the zone? Do you hear the audience? Is it in the background, or are you really there in the moment and you can really hear everything?
I've had both experiences, actually, Tioma. First couple of seasons, I didn't even hear my wife and my kids screaming on the side. They were cheering me on. I didn't even notice the crowd or any of that stuff. And I was just tunnel vision. And my last 2 times, I decided to enjoy it more. And so it didn't affect my run at all. I just had a different perspective, I guess, or, MO. And yeah, especially this year, like I was just saying, I heard the crowd, I engaged the crowd, and lots of fun, just tons of fun. I know that, that's usually the 2 ways you see folks. Either they engage the crowd and have a blast up there, or they're super focused, hyper focused. And, you see that with people like Joe Moravsky and, some of the other greats, that they are just, boom. Now you got Daniel Gill, who is just the nicest guy in the world. I mean, just super nice, right? And he's smiling while he's destroying a course, and it's just unreal watching him. I saw him, he was in season 16, so I got to talk to him this year for a minute. And I watched him, and he just blew that entire course away like he does. And he's smiling the whole time. I'm like, dude, I like you. You're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you talked a lot about the people you've met, how it's an amazing community. How has this community changed your life?
Oh, yeah. I used to compete all the time around the country in karate. And when I started this sport and started meeting folks, and, folks are saying, hey, if you come down to Los Angeles for the next competition, I've got you, man. You can stay at my house. Don't worry about a hotel and all that. And you get that a lot in this community. We offered, hey, you can stay with me. If you're up here, no problem. And it's an amazing community. We all uplift each other. And I know it sounds kind of corny to some folks, but I've been in most sports you can think of: baseball, basketball, football, all that kind of stuff, especially football, right? It's like, kill him, And in Ninja, it ain't like that, right? You already know that. But for those that don't, the first time I was on the show, I'll tell you, wanted a memory. My first time watching somebody, right there in person, I had no idea what to expect. I had only seen it on TV. And as soon as that first person went in the water, who was a walk-on, really good guy, everybody goes, oh, everybody's sad. And I was like, wait a minute, what is the deal with this sport? This is kind of cool. And it started growing, it grew on me really fast. And that's one thing I think I love the most about this sport is, this friendships. I can't, when I know I'm signed up for different competitions throughout the year, and I can't wait to go, not only to compete, but to see my friends. And, someday I'm going to have to give up Ninja, but I won't be giving up those friends because they're friends for life. It's very cool.
Yeah. And let's zoom out a little bit and talk about your life. What was it like before Ninja? Were you always that kind of, climbed on everything or something? Or was it kind of in your books, as in stuff you enjoy to do? And also tell me a little bit about your life in general, like your education and what you decided to do with your career.
Yeah. It'd been probably 6 years after I stopped going and taking and teaching karate as a student teacher. And I was kind of in this mode where I'd been laid off during that time. And, the financial downturn happened, the meltdown around the world, everybody's scrambling to find work, companies are closing. So I had no time for any fun. I was too busy trying to make sure I, could keep feeding the family, doing that kind of stuff. So I didn't really think about sports for a little while. And then, like we talked about earlier, we were watching Sasuke, and then the American Ninja Warrior version comes out, and like, oh, that looks kind of fun, and as you know, the rest is history. But as far as, my personal life, I told you, my day job is I supervise public metro bus drivers, great group of people. That's a job that is harder than it looks. And, it's my job to support my bus drivers as well as the community. Actually, I went to school for and graduated in communications. So I actually am a certified disc jockey, like radio. And I did that just before my wife and I got married back in 1991. So, just a couple of years ago. And I tried breaking into that industry. It was not easy. And eventually I had to give up and move on and do other things. And so, I didn't actually ever work in the field that I trained in, but that's okay. Things happen and you move on. So I'm just glad I'm where I'm at now. And this is a perfect place for me. I'm enjoying life in general. I mentioned that I have 3 grandchildren. One of them's brand new. She was just born just over a month ago. And, I live for my grandchildren, and, I love my kids. I love my grandkids. I just love life. Everything ain't perfect, right? I mean, stuff isn't always the best, but I'm enjoying the holidays. It just started last week with Thanksgiving, and it's a fun time to see family and friends and enjoy time together. And, as soon as we get off this interview, I'm heading straight to the gym to do my job as a coach, ninja coach. And I'm looking forward to that too.
And what is the contrast between the coaching and the training? Like, does one benefit the other? Do you feel like coaching kind of helps you become a better ninja yourself, or are they two separate boats?
I've never thought about that. That's a great question. I think my initial answer would probably have to be, I think they complement each other. Someone who's had years of experience as a coach in other sports, and prior to being a coach in both of those, I was an athlete. I think maybe being an athlete before a coach probably does help. I guess I would have to go with that answer. You have a perspective that someone who, I mean, you can watch any sport enough, like if you watch it long enough, you can eventually pick up on stuff and you could become a coach, right? I mean, certainly, but someone that has done it, that's different. So yeah, I guess I'd have to go with that. Being an athlete first, I think has definitely helped me to be a coach. I understand what I want to teach my students because I've done it. So I guess that's a good way to look at it.
Awesome. And what do you enjoy more? Yes, or coach?
Well, I do enjoy coaching like nobody's business, but if I have to pick, yeah, I enjoy being an athlete just a little bit more. I like to get out there and do it. You know, I love competing. I can't wait to do the next competition. It's, the thing about this sport that's so cool is, you do these competitions, right, Chioma? You do these competitions, and we talked about how they're different everywhere you go, right? You don't know what you're going to do till you get there. And I think the anticipation of, oh, wow, what did they come up with this time? I think is just such a cool part of Ninja. And people who don't even know you cheer for you. I've been to more competitions than I can, shake a stick at. And people that I don't recognize, they're calling my name. And I'm like, that's cool. I like that because, that's what this is all about. These courses are tough enough and that I think a lot of us don't look at it as I'm against you. It's more like I'm against the course because the course will sort us all out.
Yeah. And what has your competition been, or competition schedule, competition career been like? Have you competed in WNL, UNA, or, I mean, I know you talked a lot about UNA, but do you do other leagues or just that?
I used to do WNL as well. I just don't have the spare time to be in more than one league right now. So I stick with UNAA. Nothing against WNL. It's just, and in fact, the gym I used to go to, they were WNL, then they switched to UNAA for a year, then they switched back to WNL. And that gym's like an hour from my house. I just don't have time to go, but I have competed since they switched back to WNL a couple of times, but I just only have so much time off. And there's only 2 gyms in the state that do, there's 3 that do UNAA. Sandy Zimmerman, I'm sure you know who that is, of course. She is on the opposite side of Washington from me. And I go there a couple of times a year and do UNAA competitions. And there's another one that is a little, about a half hour south of Seattle. I go there sometimes as well. So they're close. But anyway, most of the WNL competitions there's not many WNL gyms on the west side of the country. So I only have so much time off. So that's kind of where I go with that. I wish I had more. I'd love to do those. I want to do FINA too. That's a really cool looking league.
And what are your goals for this year of competition, or in general your future of competing?
Yeah, my goal for this year, my biggest goal is to be able to go back to qualify and compete for my 7th time in the Ultimate Ninja Athlete Association World Championships, which this year is going to be in LA. That's something that at the end of the one season, when Worlds is done, I'm already like, when's calendar going to start filling out? I need to plan my year, because in most years I'll compete like 5-6 times. So about every other month I try to go to some kind of a competition if I can. So that's kind of what it's looking like. And I'm going to have to try to figure out how to do that work-life balance like we were talking about before, where now that I coach, I actually have less time to work out, and I don't want that to slip. I got to stay up, on all my training. So it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah. And this sport is definitely in quite a unusual place right now, because the show is dying and the sport is growing, and really a lot of directions that the sport can go into right now. Do you have any opinion on what you would like to see as the future of this sport? Would you like to be in the Olympics, maybe in X Games, or would you like it to be its own thing?
I've thought about maybe it'd be cool if it was in the X Games. I think it kind of lends to that a little more than the Olympics. Yeah. However, for those that are listening that don't know, UNAA president Bob, he's been pushing really hard, and there's others as well. I don't want to leave anybody out. I just don't have the names. But the boxes, I should say, the check boxes are being ticked off one at a time for ninja, the sport of ninja, to be an official Olympic sport. And I don't know if you've already heard, but it's going to be in the next pentathlon. So yeah, it was announced just recently. So ninja is now going to be official in the pentathlon. And so it's still being worked on to get it into the regular Olympics. And I don't know when that would be, but yeah, I would like to see it in the Olympics too. But if I had to pick, yeah, I guess I would have to say I think it lends more to an X Games kind of thing. As far as like you said, the show, the ratings have gone down in recent years, which makes me sad. And I hope that it'll be back again, but we aren't. There won't be any. It doesn't look like there's going to be any casting this winter because we've already recorded for next year. So, well, I don't know. Keep my fingers crossed. The show is amazing. It's been one hell of a journey, and I'm hoping to be able to keep doing that. But we'll see. What you mentioned that I think is cool, Tioma, is that the show, it's going. The ratings have gone down, right? And who knows if it's going to be around much longer. But the sport has grown as a result of, from the show, right? And when I always thought when I first got into this sport, I really hope that someday this gets big enough that there are gyms everywhere. Because when I first got in, there were no gyms on the West Coast that I can remember. I don't even think M Lab in LA, I don't think they were around. I mean, I might be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But there was nothing in Washington or Oregon or Idaho, anywhere close to me. And so I think it's amazing that there are gyms in practically, I think, every state in the country now, and they're all over the world. It's just amazing. So even if the show goes away at this point, I guess my answer is I think that it's amazing, or it's great that I think the sport is definitely going to continue to grow and live on long after whenever the show is off the air. I have no doubt about that at this point.
Yeah, and there are so many leagues and formats, and a lot of people think, well, we need to settle on one, and if we want to go into mainstream, really, we need to choose one specific structure for everything. This is how a bar is going to be like. Each salmon ladder is 1 foot. Structure everything out to make it fit into an Olympic type competition format. In general, what do you think for all the leagues and formats? What do you see to be the best for the future of the sport? And do you like the idea of it being separate in all these different leagues and formats, or would you like it to be one?
Well, as far as how do I say it? I like how all the different leagues, FINA, WNL, UNAA, etc. I like how they all bring something different to the table, right? They all have their own format, and I think that that's actually pretty cool. Because if it was all just one, I'd get pretty bored pretty fast. So I like how they're all different. As far as the sport being in the Olympics, for instance, I believe you're asking. I think if I had to pick, because of the format of the Olympics, someone needs to, go, get through it. I don't think 3 tries and you're out is probably the best format for that. If I had to vote, I would say something like WNL, because, and it needs to be a sport that people are going to engage in. Now, I'm not saying that UNAA, and I don't want it to be taken the wrong way. I'm not saying that UNAA isn't exciting to watch, but the pressure that you have with WNL, like one and done, just like the TV show, right? It one and done. Well, the speed, and I don't know, I guess watching people like Daniel Gill and Carson Williams and, a lot of ninjas that are able to just go super wicked fast and just, boom, 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 boom. If it's in a format like one and done, like on the show, yeah, that would be my vote anyway.
Mm-hmm. And the sport is definitely expanding, and in general, it is already so diverse, so many different types of movements all in one sport. What would you say defines this sport?
Yeah, that's a good question. What defines the sport to me is it's changing all the time, right? And what I mean by that is, like in our gym, I'll just say as an example, in our gym, we change the equipment around literally every day. So, and we will take sometimes we'll leave the same equipment out and then we'll just change it all around. And it's a different course, right? It's always different. And we'll switch things out before classes start and, and change things around. And I love that. And so what I love about this sport is, the variety. It's a sport that you don't know what to expect every time you come through the door. And something that makes me really happy on the inside is when I see students of ours come through the door and they're smiling. I know why they're smiling. It's because they're like, oh, wow, yeah, they changed it again. And now I have a new challenge. And I just think that's so cool. It always keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. And what is I know right now you're working on a gym. You're doing quite a lot of things. You're a coach. What is your purpose in this sport right now? What do you see as your future impact that you will make in this community?
My future in the community is, I plan to continue coaching for years, even long after my body says, you're done, dude. The impact I'm having on the sport, even right now as a coach, I'm feeling it. I see it in the students that I teach, and I love it. It's something that, hopefully we'll get more gyms in Washington and throughout the West Coast than we even have now. And, the sport will continue to proliferate. I just think it's the most fun thing I've done in a long time. It's something that when I go to the gym, even when I'm working out, like before I became a coach, let me answer it this way, Chioma. Before I was a coach, I'd be doing like an open gym at my previous gym. And, somebody new would come through the door. I wasn't a coach. I was just, another guy. And I'd go over and I'd help them and say, hey, this is how you start a lache. Don't, bite off too much. You don't want to get hurt. This is how you progress. And I show people and they go, oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And so I was even coaching before I was a coach, but yeah. I like helping people. I really do. I want to put smiles on faces. I want folks to be interested in this sport and want to keep coming back. And, it's so fun, right? When you're a ninja. So, when you finally nail some kind of crazy lache or whatever it is you're trying to do, that's an unlock. Some people will say like, level unlocked. And when I get an unlock in a session, I feel so accomplished. Or when I see one of my students do that, we had a couple of them last Friday, and it was just, we were all screaming and having a great time. And it was so, there were smiles on their faces. And I'm like, okay, this is a good thing. I'm helping these kids to, do something that the average Joe can't do, right? Most people can't just walk into a ninja gym and just do stuff. It's very rare that someone can do that. And I love the progress that my students are making. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I can relate to that very much. Like, I coach in the gym right now, but whenever I go to other gyms, I find myself coaching as well.
I know, right? It's like, whoa, isn't that, it's just cool. And you're not doing it because you're bragging or, you're doing it because you just genuinely want to help them, right?
Yeah. And
that's what I love it. It's like, no, there's nothing in this for me other than, helping you to not break your neck. Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. When I was competing in karate as a contrast, man, it wasn't literally about, breaking their knees or whatever, sweep the leg like in, Cobra Kai, but you were out there to basically beat the other person, beat them up and win. And it was a very adversarial kind of atmosphere. We weren't really trying to hurt each other. You know what I mean? So, but it was, it's a different mindset. And, ninja, it's cool, man. It's just the coolest. I hope I never get to stop coaching.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that because whenever I tell people, they're like, well, what sport do you do? I say Ninja Warrior. They always think, oh, yeah, that's like karate, right?
You know what I hear more than anything? And I hear that one too. I hear what's that show that went off the air with the mud and stuff? Mm-hmm. Wipeout. Oh, yeah. You ever see that show? Most folks that have any inkling, they say, oh, that's like Wipeout. And I'm like, it's taking everything I have right now not to kill you. It's like I work out 365 days a year for 2.5 minutes on the TV show American Ninja Warrior. This is a serious sport. This is not Wipeout.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of people definitely think it's like fighting because ninjas back in the day were kind of like,
yeah,
you know, it was more about combat art, and then warrior also sounded like combat.
Yeah, true enough. Assassins. Well, I will tell you, there are certain obstacles that I like to assassinate, but I've been assassinated by a couple too.
Yeah. Speaking of that, what obstacles do you kind of enjoy doing? Is there any strong suit you have, any weakness, anything you're trying to focus on getting better at, and anything that you really enjoy specifically?
The answer to all of those is laches. For years, dude, seriously, I totally sucked at laches for a long time because we didn't have a gym. And then we finally got one, and then I had to get elbow surgeries and, other things, and life happened, blah, blah, blah. So, I'm a late bloomer. I finally gotten to the point where I can do decent, 6, 7, 8 foot laches. Anything farther than that is, for me, impractical, because there's never a competition I've been in that I've had to do it that far. So that's just bragging rights as far as I'm concerned. 10 foot laches, I've landed one, and I ended up ripping my hand wide open, skin and all that. I was like, okay, I don't need to do that. 18 foot warp wall. I don't do that stuff. I used to go to the 16 foot hold in my previous gym, but I don't need to go to the 18. I got nothing to prove. I used to be really weak at the regular 14 and a half foot warp wall, to be quite honest. It was about 50-50, depending on, where my brain was at. I kept pushing myself though, because that was a definite weakness. And I got myself to the point where, I can go up with my eyes closed, run it up backwards, whatever, it's not a big deal. But it took me a long time to get good at that, to be honest, which I know a lot of folks listening to this will laugh like, bro, it's the warped wall, man. I do that all the time. Well, I'm a lot older than most ninjas, so I will tell you that it takes a little bit more practice for some of us. But yeah, working on laches, I'm getting better at them, but I'm trying to get more efficient. That's one of my big weaknesses, and I'm certainly glad to share that. Yeah, it's something that I'm consciously working on, not taking 3 swings, trying to, sometimes I can do a lache on 1 swing, and it's fine. But yeah, and then one other weakness is probably lacheing to handholds that are like ledges, maybe opposing ledges where you have to jump and you have to reach behind and in front. So like cliffhangers like in rock climbing. So you lache, do like a 6 foot lache, and you have an obstacle that's hanging, and maybe it's 2 cliffhangers that are on opposite sides, and they're only half the width of the object, if that makes sense, how I'm explaining it, and grab it on my fingertips. I need more work. I definitely need more work on that. But my favorite thing to do in the world, though, is laches. Anything that has to do with flying through the air. Yeah, I mean, I went skydiving a couple times last year. I walk on my hands all the time. I love anything that makes me upside down.
Yeah. Honestly, when I look at this, if I didn't know how to do it, or if I didn't see other people do it, I wouldn't even think it's a possibility for a human being to be able to do stuff like this. It really feels superhuman when you're doing it.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah. And, I smile when I do a move and I miss. I just keep going. I usually keep going and repeating it until I get it. But sometimes when you get something on the first try, it's like, oh, good grief. I can't believe I just nailed that. That's so cool. Nobody's watching. Wasn't on video. It didn't happen. That's what my wife says. She's like, well, did you video it? I'm like, no. She says, then you didn't do it. Sure, you did.
I had an idea that gyms should start taking their security camera footage and making videos out of it.
Yeah, I know, right? All the crazy things, all the crazy misses and stuff. I mean, like I told you before, towards the beginning of the interview, the one time I got video doing ninja that I didn't want to be shown, it was shown to over 6 million people that week, according to the ratings. And it was just embarrassing. And, I got ribbed at work for a while, but I was also off work for 6 months because of the extent of my injuries from season 9. So I lost a lot of practice that year, just getting surgeries and healing up and stuff. And here's the thing too. And, anybody who watches the show on the regular, they've actually replayed that. What was it? Season 11 in the Tacoma Dome the first time. They aired my run. I was in a digest, a little short 30-second. Oh, while we were away, 3 More Ninjas took the course, and they showed me do my run. I went out on the third obstacle, the something barrels or whatever the barrels were called, because I didn't know how to lachey right. Killing me. And that they showed before I did that. They said, oh, but he's had a history with having a problem with the second obstacle, and they showed my fall again. I'm like, can you please stop showing that? It's so embarrassing. But I'll tell you what, you asked, can I throw something out there? A feel-good moment that really felt good was a really amazing memory from season 13 in the Tacoma Dome, where I told you I went out, I was the first one for the entire season. I went out, I fall in the water, people are clapping and stuff, which is fun. And then I'm heading towards the, locker rooms so I can get changed, right? And I have these 3 young guys that walked up to me. They said, hey, you're the Transit Ninja. And I said, yeah, well, I suck. Look, you saw me, right? They said, hey, that doesn't matter. We were in Los Angeles, and we were at Ninja Warrior when you fell and got hurt in season 9. And we just can't believe that you keep coming back. And, and they said something along the lines of, that's really cool or something. And so I shook some hands, got some bro hugs. And, that was probably one of my favorite moments. It was sort of like a backhanded compliment. It was like, oh yeah, you did really great. You fell and hurt yourself really bad. Arguably some of the worst injuries probably ever done on the show. But, it was a feel good moment that a few guys walked up and actually took a moment to say, hey, we thought you're doing great. You're still coming back. And I think one of them even said something along the lines of, when we get to your age, hope we're still doing Ninja. It was something like that. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a little bit scary to come on the show, and if you mess something up, do something wrong, there's no way to take it back. You have no control over what the show shows.
Yeah, because they do. For those that don't know that are listening, the show records every single run. They record everything, and then they decide in post production, what they're going to show for whatever reason. And if you do something really super crazy cool, they're probably going to show you. If you do really bad, case in point, they're going to show you most likely. So just depends. But yeah, it's interesting to see some, I've been there a lot of times, like we talked about, and it's interesting how they pick some folks to show and then they don't pick somebody else. I'm like, what about that lady? She did really awesome. Or that guy, they're really cool. They're inspirational. The oldest person I've ever competed on the show with was 75 years old, and he was such an inspiration. I can't tell you who he is because he was in our episode that we filmed, but when it comes out, I'm pretty sure they're going to show him, and then you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Just the coolest guy you ever met. Really nice. And I'm just like, dude, you're like me 20-something years from now, and you're doing this? That is just, wow. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, for sure. And if someone is watching this that, I'm too intimidated to do this, this is not something that's even a possibility, but I love this, I'm a fan of this, and I really would love to do it. What's your advice?
My advice is definitely first to see, if there is a ninja gym within spitting distance of where you live. Hopefully nowadays, for those, most folks hopefully have access to one. If you don't, then I would say, you could do what I did. You can if you do parkour, which I didn't do, but if you were to incorporate some parkour, some bouldering, indoor rock climbing, or even real rock climbing, but those blend really well. Both of those blended together is almost entirely what our sport is. I mean, really. And, also going maybe to like local public parks or local playground, once, school's out and kids are gone, and then you can just kind of have free reign and work on whatever you can see on the show, try to replicate as close to that as possible.
Or what about the first time in the gym? Because often the sport gets a lot easier with time. You know, you get used to it. Things get a lot more fun and interesting for, you know, maybe you're like a few months in. But when you're first time in the gym, what's your advice for getting started?
My advice for getting started is to, you know, try to talk to and introduce yourself to other ninjas and see who is really good, who's really good. And if they're friendly, and hopefully they are, most folks in this community overwhelmingly are, ask them, how would I start? Like if you go to an open gym, I would advise to take classes if there are classes available, formal classes. I think that's the best way to actually start. I should take that back. So getting a class at a local ninja gym is probably the best way to start. And then, then going to either going to open gyms in addition to that, so you can then work on things on your own that maybe you learned in class this week or last week, or just switching. I never took formalized classes because by the time, the first gym opened up north of me, Life Force Ninja, by the way, is the name of that gym. Absolutely phenomenal gym. It's in Bellingham, Washington. I should have said that earlier. Life Force, I'd already been on the show 4 times. And so I wasn't interested in classes. I was just kind of interested in open gym. Then I got onto the competition team and it was a class. And then when I left the team, I just went back to doing open gym, but I already knew how to do ninja. If you are new, I definitely recommend the path. Go take a class or 2 at least, or get a couple of classes so you get the feel for it. And then if you don't want to do class anymore, then go ahead and do open gyms. But yeah, find somebody that is definitely better than you and ask them to break it down. How do I do this without killing myself?
So I want to go back about the show a little bit. So the format changed, and obviously a lot of people don't really like it. What is your opinion on the format changes? And as a competitor, do you like it? Do you like racing with other people? And as a viewer, what do you think they should change to, gain back the viewership?
Yeah, that's been something I've thought about, and I throw that idea around with a lot of my fellow A&W veteran buddies, and there's some mixed feelings on how they've changed it. I would say that if I was in charge, right? If I was the executive producer, if I was Kent Weed, right? Who is one of them, I'll just put it this way. I would get rid of the stories. Everybody has a sad story. We all do, I lost my parents 2 years ago. Everybody has something. Someone knows someone who has cancer, unfortunately. There's a lot of sadness that we all deal with. Everybody has it. I want to see something uplifting. And I think that's the strength of the show, is watching people do like what you had said. It seems impossible, right? Doing this kind of stuff. And unless you've done it yourself, you just look at it and you go, oh my God, I don't know if I could ever do that. And I just love, I like seeing the impossible become possible. I do like racing against other people. I think that's just beyond fun. Putting your medal against somebody else's, there's nothing like it. I would say that if I was in charge, right? If I was the king and I got to make the decision right now, I would get rid of the sob stories. All the stories, good ones. I mean, the show tends to show more stuff that people had to overcome, because that's really the thrust of the show, the way the format is right now. And most of us, A&W veterans, and I've talked to most of them, we all tend to agree. We'd rather the show be about kind of like Sasuke, where you almost never see stories, right? You just see more competition. We would love the ninjas. We would love to see it be. We'd like to see everybody who ran. We would love to see that be in each episode, because only about 35% of the ninjas that run the course in any given season are ever shown on TV. I know a lot of ninjas, Tioma, that are so good. They smash buzzers all the time, but they don't maybe have the personality, or, they don't have that it factor that the show is looking for. So they'll invite them to come on the show and compete, but they don't show them on the broadcast. And to me, that's, I wish that it wasn't that way. I wish everybody got shown. So that would be as a competitor, that point of view, for the most part, I mean, it's an amazing experience. I like when I'm on the course, you're subject to the elements. Like this year, it was about 40 degrees outside just before I ran, and there was a breeze, and I was cold. Everybody was freezing. We were all using hand warmers and, bundling up and stuff like that until it was your turn on the course. And then the water is just as cold as the outside air. So when you finally fall in the water, the part sucks. As far as being a competitor, there's, how do I say this? So I like the split decision. That is actually pretty exciting. Got my first crack at that in season 13, and I think that was a long time overdue. That was a very cool innovation, and I want to see that again. I definitely want to see split decision again, giving the competitor the option to go, well, choose your own adventure, and it's on you if you fall on this one versus that one. I would love to see a choose your own. Okay, I would love to see a split decision as a competitor for something that's overhang instead of balance, or maybe one of each. Like maybe it typically is the third obstacle or the fourth obstacle where on the show they have a floor balance or like something with your feet, right? And I would love to see that followed by, now you have an overhead. You got to do this apparatus on the right or this one on the left, and one's super hard but it's short, and the other one's long but it's easier. Go. And I'd love to see that too. That would be super cool. But I don't know if that would take too long or if they would love that format. But if I was in charge, heck yeah.
Yeah. For sure. And the budget is definitely also like a big factor in this. I think over the years recently they've been trying to kind of lower their budget, make it simpler, try to save the show. But is there anything else you think that got worse over the years that's the reason they're losing so much viewership?
Well, I can't put my finger on any one thing. I think, okay, so I'm going to say this, and I don't want it to come across the wrong way, because there's many folks that might get mad, and I'm not aiming for this, but so the addition of 15-year-olds on the show, nothing against him, nothing at all, nothing. I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but I'm pretty certain about the time that 15-year-olds being added into the show is when the ratings were going down. I could be wrong. I could totally be wrong. I have nothing against that. I just think it would be more exciting to have the teens in their own show. Like, they had the American Ninja Warrior Junior. I just can't imagine that if 15-year-olds or, whatever age range they want to use, if teens were in their own version of the show, oh God, that would blow up. It would blow up because you have a lot of folks that watch the A&W show, and they're older. They're grown-ups and stuff. And a lot of folks have said, well, how do you compete against a 15-year-old when you're, 30, 40, 50? It's hard. It's really hard. So those that are listening that, you're around that age or whatever, please don't hate on me. I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that I think it would be better if the 15-year-olds were in their own show, because, oh my God, the amount of talent, it's unreal. I mean, the 15-year-olds that I competed against in my episode this year, unreal, the talent. I can't compete against that. No way on this earth. They are so much better than I'll ever be. But it's also like it's not a competition, because they creamed us older folks. So anyway, I hope that didn't come across the wrong. That's
definitely a good idea. And I think that meeting was a great idea. Like it did pretty well. I'm not sure exactly what went wrong, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people liked it, and it was honestly going pretty well.
Yeah. Those kids are they're phenomenal athletes. And the thing is most of them don't have to try. That's what gets my goat. They're just so naturally good at this sport. And I'm in awe. I'm always in awe when I watch them. Even at, UNAA and WNL competitions, they just destroy courses. And, I go against a 15-year-old ninja, if we were on a side-by-side course, they'd be done when I'm on like the third obstacle or fourth obstacle or something.
Yeah. And not only
Like, wait a minute, let me get my cane or my walker. I'll be with you in a second,
Yeah. And not just for the show, but as for the sport, Ninja Junior definitely kind of made the new generation of ninjas that we see now, crushing everything. Ninja Junior really helped them become who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have no doubt about that. I totally agree. It's made this. I'll just say I agree. That's well put.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's been about an hour, right?
Yeah.
So tell us where people can find you.
So you can find me on Instagram, Pappouli69, Pappouli 69, because I was born in 69. So, and that's where I post pretty much anything that I do ninja wise. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, I really appreciate it, Tioma. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to talking to you again.
For sure.